Welcome once again to Newsfile, and this is your most authoritative news analysis show. The show is brought to you by the candid sponsorship of Bank of Africa. They are strong as a group and close as a partner. MTN, you're always welcome to this new world. ACAP Compost Fertilizer, this truly natural fertilizer that you require for all of your agricultural purposes. White Temple Agency, as a luxury you can afford. What sort of tiles are you looking for? That is where to go. Now, this morning, as I indicated to you in my introduction, we will find out how bribe has shown up in Parliament once again. Did Agyarko really attempt to buy his approval as Energy Minister? How exactly does Ayariga prove that? It's very difficult to prove bribe. How is he going to prove that? We'll look at those issues and the matters arising from the vetting or the appointments committee so far, particularly the matters that relate to why there was disagreement on Agyarko and also Osafo-Maafo. You're welcome once again. The other issues we'll look at the international, Global Anti-Corruption Watch has put out its corruption perception index, and Ghana is doing poorly, dropped two places. Well, and I'm asking the question whether or not it is solely because a police chief was recruiting some officers in his small town or village using his phone. The information that was gotten that implicated him was on his phone, and some transactions that went into his bank account. We'll look at all those matters this morning. That is, if Dumso has not visited you this morning. Did I say we had dropped two places? Well, that's being magnanimous. I can't believe that we have dropped 4 places. That's what I meant to say. So thank you very much. This morning's edition is the edition where I'm hosting editors, journalists, people who are at the forefront of information management for your purposes. So stay glued and get ready to enjoy the show this morning. We'll be speaking to the Honorable Ayariga, who is MP for Boku Central and member of the Appointments Committee of Parliament. We will be speaking to the Honorable Agyarko also, who is the Energy Minister. He's been sworn in. And then Joe Osewusu, who is MP Bekwai and First Deputy Speaker of Parliament, and he chairs the Appointments Committee. We'll speak to them and try to resolve the issue right here. But did you really know that whilst they were in the normal course of their duties, vetting appointees, they were being paid allowances? We'll look at why that should be so and how that is appropriate. In the studio will be Paula Domochiri, his news reporter and journalist, hosted the longest running television current affairs show in this country. And then Efia Pokua, she's news editor, multimedia group here at Adom FM. Efia, good morning. Welcome to Newsfile.
Good morning.
Great. Also in the studio is Malik Abbas Dabu. He's editor, myjoyonline.com, and he's the deputy head of Joy News' political desk. He talks a lot of politics in a way that you will love it. Good morning, Malik, and welcome.
Good morning.
Great to have you. And also to join us will be Larry Lance Dogwe. He is managing editor, the Herald newspaper. But for now, I have these two lady and gentlemen in my studio, so we will start right away. First of all, let's try to go to the Appointments Committee and find out what happened, transpired between Osafo-Maafo and the panel, which led to the problems that he's had to encounter.
Started with, I'm just telling you how the thing was distorted and put out of context. I started by talking about how poorly this economy has managed that we have gone from 9.4 billion debt to 110 billion debt at the time, and how growth without oil was 9.1 billion and has dwindled to about 4%, and etc., etc., etc. And I said something which I had said in this room, that Ghana is not poor, and that the resource base of this country is found in 5 regions. And I mentioned the regions specifically. I was making a strong economic argument. Now, people removed all that I had said about the poor management of the economy, and then make it look like I started by talking about the sources of the location of this thing, and push it forward and change certain things to make me look like I was being a tribalist. I mean, and it was bad. This is why I find people very mischievous. When I'm talking about the economy, I'll start talking about where the resources are. Does it make sense when you're talking about the economy? Talk about performance of the economy first. You talk about the causes of the poor management before you say, look, we are strong and we have the foreign resources located this way. But if you take all the top part, you take the whole thing out of context and make it look very bad, tribalistic. So I think, yes, it happened. Newspapers reported something wrong, and I think people should be ashamed of themselves when they do this kind of cut and paste to create the wrong impression in the system.
So, Osafo-Maafo's contention is that he did make some comments, but they were not the comments that have been attributed to him because the said tape was doctored. What exactly did he say? Let's hear him. All right, we'll try and bring you at least some transcripts of the infamous comments, which he has now categorically denied, and on the basis of which he refuses to apologize to the House of Parliament. Joining us all in the studio now is Larry Dogu. Good morning. Welcome.
Thank you.
Great to have you. Right. Now, let's also try and follow up what exactly happened as far as Boachi Agyarko is concerned. And you know that the Honorable Alhassan Suhini raised some issues with him. And partly, those are some of the issues that led to his problems with the committee also. Let's hear Boachi Agyarko.
Bank's prosecution of others, not the candidate, not the nominee here, got to do with us.
Thank you. I'll ask the question now. Thank you. I'll ask the question now. Thank you. So the foundation still stands, and the question is, can you kindly briefly, tell us your work at the bank, how you were engaged, how you were discontinued, how you discontinued working with the bank, and perhaps later furnish us with the document that shows how you left the bank, so we can assure ourselves as a nation that you at no particular point in time played any role in these scandals that I have hinted at. Thank you.
Your question, the last, is overruled. If you want another question, please go on, but please nominate disregard and the part relating to order.
I'm very glad that the honorable member started by saying that the Bank of New York is a large organization. The Bank of New York operates in 125 countries. The money laundering issues of 2007 and 2005 and 2007 happened in London. A totally different jurisdiction from New York, where I was. A totally different jurisdiction from where I was. If the honorable member would care to investigate the structure of the holding company, Bank of New York, New York, Bank of New York, London, Bank of New York, Brussels, Bank of New York, Mexico, don't have bilateral relationships. We all report to the holding company of the Bank of New York, New York, New York. It beats my imagination, therefore, that a case that happened outside my jurisdiction and a case for which was investigated and specific individuals held accountable and prosecuted without my name ever being associated with the business becomes an issue. The question has no linkage. The question of the criminal prosecutions has no linkage to New York and my employment. So I am rather lost on why it's an issue.
Honorable nominee, your point is well made. Thank you very much. Now, honorable member, you will stay out of matters which are not relevant and which are not justifiable, accusations and so on. Please play by the rules, or else I'll go past you and call other people.
Mr. Chairman, I think that I have to make it clear that I am not happy with the way that I am treated on this committee. Mr. Chairman, I want it on record that I never impugned ill motives to the nominee. I simply referred to scandals and sought to find out how he left the bank, so we assure ourselves that he had no role in those scandals, because a vice president was held responsible and he also left as vice president. I never impugned ill motive, I never accused him, and I would like that to be on record that I am not happy about the way you have treated me on this committee.
Honorable Suini, you're not ready to ask the question, I'll move on.
To my next question.
No, I've ruled you out. I'm asking another person to.
What kind of rudeness is this?
Honorable Cabo.
All right, so you heard Alassane Suini and his questionings and the responses that came out of that, and the reaction that came from a section of the leadership, the majority particularly, and hear him again when he returned to the House the next day.
Before my question, if I am indulged, let me take this opportunity to apologize to the chairman of the committee for the fact that I lost my temper at some point yesterday. I sincerely apologize to you if I came across as bad. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the opportunity.
Right, so there were a couple of incidents that occurred in the House, particularly yesterday, and we are going to dwell a bit more on that. I'd like to welcome Paul Adumochiri to the studio. He's been here for a while.
Thank you, Samson.
Good morning.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, my brother.
Your take.
Thank you.
I'll come for legal advice.
Thank you, sir. Now, we have on the phone lines the Honorable Mahama Ayariga. He's MP for Boku Central, and he is a member, must be ranking on the Appointments Committee. Mr. Ayariga, good morning and welcome to Newsfile.
Good morning, and how are you? And good morning to your listeners and viewers.
I'm very good, thanks for asking. Now, I'd like you to hold on briefly. I would like to relate to our viewers and listeners what exactly transpired and get to hear. Now,
thank you.
Right. In respect to the approval or the problem associated with the approval of Boachi Agyarko, there were issues that came up, and subsequently these were the developments. Let's hear what the Honorable Mahama Ayariga, who is on the line, had said, and then we'll hear from Joe Osei-Wusu what his reaction to that was, and then we'll speak to Ms. Ayariga.
Muntaka called us and said that the chairman had brought some money, and so we should pass by and pick our money. So we passed by and individually were given 3,000 Ghana cedis, which we assumed was the allowance you as committee members. So somehow yesterday we started hearing some rumors that it wasn't the allowances that should be given to us from Parliament. It was some other source. So this morning we had a meeting, and during the meeting we raised the issue with our chief whip, asking what was the source of the money. Because we raised the issue with him yesterday, some of us raised the issue with him yesterday, and he said he was going to check from the chairman, because he had also assumed that it was the certain allowance that he had given him to give to us. So we raised the issue this morning again, and he said he had met with the chairman, and the chairman had said that it was from Agyarko, who is a nominee, whereupon we as a minority said, no, we're not interested in his money. He should take the money and then return it to the chairman to give it back to Agyarko. So we gave the money back to our chief whip and asked him to send it back to the chairman to give it to Mr. Agyarko. So those are the facts that I know. I don't know much beyond that.
So this is what the Honorable Mahama Ayariga said on an interview on Radio Gold, and that is what led to all of the brouhaha in the House yesterday. Joe Osei-Usu reacted, and this was his reaction, very brief, and then we'll come to deal with this issue.
Totally unfair. But for them, they said we have unfairly accused John Mahama of corruption, so they are sharing their words.
This story has really gone viral.
Well,
Won't it damage the image of the committee and Parliament?
That's why I said it on the floor of the House, so that the record will reflect that in the presence of all those wicked allegations, they said that they were doing that only because we had accused the former president of corruption.
For you, should the case end here? Should this be the end of the matter?
Yes, for anybody who is objective. I said it in the presence of all those who are making the allegation. If it were not so, we expect that they will respond that it were not so. But actually, we went into a closed meeting. We brought the two nominees, and they pointed out what they considered offensive. And after we had worked out and they had withdrawn those words, that was when they confessed that this other, because I was insisting that we go into that matter, find out who had made those allegations. That's where they said, we called John Mahama corrupt. So they were also sharing corruption among all of us.
Right, so that's Joe Osei-Usu, First Deputy Speaker and Chair of the Appointments Committee. Mr. Ayariga, he says that you simply were lying. I mean, to put it bluntly, you were lying, and that you cooked up this so that, the majority will also, or the government will also be seen in bad light because they had rained accusations of corruption against you. This is a very serious allegation that you make.
Are you now asking me a question?
Yeah, he says you have confessed.
Oh, yeah.
You have actually,
okay.
you have actually confessed.
I thought you were still giving your.
It's all right.
Your background stories. Well,
yes.
First and foremost, what I said on Radio Gold is factual, facts, absolute facts, and facts that all those members of the minority side of the Appointments Committee who were in the meeting can confirm that everything that I said on Radio Gold is accurate, and they may keep quiet and not talk. They may come out and talk, but those are facts, absolute facts. Now, what the chairman of the committee said in the second tape that you played, first and foremost, he didn't deny that we asked that money be returned to him. He didn't deny anything that I hear you report on in the tape. All he says is that at the in-camera meetings that we had with the two nominees, he raised the issue, and then we said it was equalization. Indeed, the word equalization came from him. He raised the issue and said, why did I put out the information there that Agyarko had given money to him to give to us. And I replied to him that, well, you said John Mahama is corrupt, so your corruption should also be out there. Then he then retorted and said, so it is equalization. Then everybody in the room laughed. There was no apology. There was no retraction. He asked why I put it out. And I said, yes, this man says John Mahama is corrupt. So if he also engages in corruption, why? We should also put that out so that everybody will see. So that is what happened in the in-camera meeting. There was no retraction. So
very
and
interesting.
There was no apology. Listen, there was no apology from me.
Okay.
Me, I want to state just facts. I don't want to get involved in the analysis.
But what Agyarko is swearing on his life that he never did any such thing and will never do such a thing.
Yes, so I'm saying that I never dealt directly with Agyarko.
Okay.
If you notice from my narrative, I didn't say I dealt directly with Agyarko.
That's right.
And if you notice from my narrative, I didn't even say I dealt directly with the chairman of the committee. Have you noticed that from the facts? Hello?
Yes, I'm listening to you.
From the facts, if you notice, I didn't say I dealt directly with the chairman of the committee. I only recounted what happened in the meeting of we, the minority members of the committee, and the decision that we took and the actions that we took. So beyond our whip, the rest of the matter is between them.
Okay, so let's get to some basics. Let's get to some basics.
Yes.
Right. Let's get to some basics. Who handed this money you talk about to you?
Oh, our whip, our chief whip, the minority chief whip.
You are referring to Muntaka Mubarak, Honorable Muntaka Mubarak, MP for Asawase.
Yes.
Okay, so he handed money separated in envelopes of 3,000 each.
Yes.
For all of the minority members on the committee.
He said each minority member was getting that. But when I got there, this is what he gave me. At the meeting, everybody confirmed that that was what was given to him or her.
Right. And this was given to you when?
Oh, this was on Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah, I think, Thursday.
Right. What is your procedure? What is the procedure in the House in accepting or taking allowances for work you do? Because you said that you thought this was the allowance for you.
In the past, different procedures have been used. I mean, there are times when the leadership will sign for it and come and ask you to individually sign for it from their offices and take it.
Okay.
There are times when there are some allowances like there are sometimes that we finish and then we go home during the recess. Then they say, oh, they have got some money and therefore they have paid it into our account. So different procedures have been used in the past.
Right.
So that's why we didn't raise any questions.
Did you sign up for this? You said the leader may sign and then you will subsequently sign with the leader. Did you sign up?
Oh, we just took it from him because we assumed that they had done all the administrative things. And you recall that I said that the reason why we're expecting money from the chairman was the fact that he had told us at the committee sitting that he had raised a memo from the speaker and to the speaker and was raising some money for us. So that was why we're expecting money from him. So we legitimately were expecting money from the chairman. So when we're told the chairman had got the money, we assumed that that was it.
How much were you expecting?
Oh, we don't know. I mean, he said he had raised a memo to the speaker. He didn't disclose to any of us in committee how much he was raising, how much he was going to get for each member of the committee. He didn't tell us anything beyond the fact that he was arranging money from the office.
But there should be a fixed amount for each sitting.
Well, I don't know. He didn't give us those details. To be frank with you,
what I'm asking or suggesting is that will be the very normal procedure, that there should be a fixed amount for each sitting, or?
Well, I mean, I don't know. He didn't tell us. He just told us he had raised a memo and everybody was there. I wasn't alone. The entire committee, this one not only the minority side, the entire committee was there when he said he had raised a memo and he was going to access funds for us as a committee. Really, I mean, honestly speaking, I'm
so at what point did you detect or learn that this money was coming from, allegedly, as you say, Agyarko and not from the state?
It was one of us, and if need arises subsequently, person will come out. It was one of us who raised the issue on Thursday in the afternoon. And I was
the very day
person.
you received the money?
Yes, in the afternoon. One of us raised the issue and said, but this thing, we are told that. And then it was like a joke. And I said, no, how can we do that? Then he said, no, find out. Then he went and checked, and then Friday morning, he came and confirmed to us. So it's a matter between Thursday and Friday morning. So
it is the Friday morning that you decided to return these envelopes?
It was when he came back to us and confirmed that it wasn't from Parliament and that it was from Mr. Agyarko. That at that same meeting, we all said, no, please. Everybody bring your money. Let's return it. We don't want this money. It's close.
Okay. So now, as we understand, you are being put to strict proof, so to speak, and you are familiar with that. Do you have any evidence to back up beyond you saying so and having some witnesses to confirm what you're saying?
Oh, yeah. I mean, what happened in the committee meeting, my colleagues are there. If they come and say it didn't happen, well, they and their God, me and my God, I have reported on what I know happened. So that is how far I can go. How far else can a human being go? If I saw X, Y, Z, and I say I saw X, Y, Z, if there were 6 other people with me and we all saw X, Y, Z, and none of them agrees that they saw X, Y, Z, fine. That's between them and their God. Between me and my God, what I saw is what I said.
You are saying that you didn't, even as a lawyer, you didn't take any deliberate steps to preserve some evidence that will be used incontrovertibly in case there's a matter coming up. Because as we hear, what Agyarko is threatening, he says that he's giving this whole situation to his lawyers and they will advise him. It does appear that he intends to resort to the court to vindicate himself.
I'm not sure any law court, and of course, I'm a lawyer, and then I understand what you're talking about. But I'm not sure any law court, if it hears evidence that I am giving, and my colleague committee members come and then they say yes, this meeting did take place, we did return the funds. I have colleagues who will come and could testify that yes, they actually returned the funds, and this was the discussion that took place in the meeting. Now, whatever he does, that is his issue. But me, I've recounted facts as I know them in a meeting that I was involved in.
Right.
And I've recounted actions that I have actually taken. The action of taking the money, the action of returning the money, I have recounted that. And I have witnesses to that effect if need be. So those are facts. I mean, whatever Agyarko does, whatever he says, I have told you that I never dealt directly with him. Haven't I said that?
Right.
I have also said I never dealt directly with the chairman of the committee.
Except that in the court of public opinion so far, there is a section that raises doubts on the credibility of what you are putting out, particularly because you don't seem, and 2 other colleagues of yours that have been mentioned. I think Samuel Okujato Ablakwa, who is mentioned as having confirmed, and one other person, don't report it. They are reported as having confirmed what you are talking about. Don't seem to have gathered any evidence, particularly when you knew this is what you intended to do.
Okujato has confirmed what I have said.
I've read somewhere that 2 of your colleagues have confirmed that you do not deny the story and that they are aware of it. He and then
Precisely.
I think Agyarko and Suini.
Those are people who were on the committee and were in the meet. I mean, did the things that we did.
Okay.
I mean, the key is listen carefully. Carefully. I have given you facts about events that I was involved in.
Right.
Things that I saw, discussions that I contributed towards, decisions that I was part of the deliberations leading to, and actions that I have taken. To that extent, I can defend myself anywhere, even if you send me to the ICJ.
Okay. So
beyond that, I say I don't know anything. It's as simple as that.
Right. Now, the credibility questions people are raising and saying it is curious that you don't seem to have preserved any evidence. Oh, if you can allow me just briefly, it's partly that why would Agyarko be interested in doing this when, after all, he would have been approved anyway? Because all you were seeking to do was to get him approved by consensus. If he didn't get approved by consensus, he was going to be approved by majority decision. So why would he seek to buy his approval? By consensus.
I'm not the one to answer that question. Me, all I know is that I was brought money, and I was told the money was from Agyarko. And I said, I don't want Agyarko's money. Return Agyarko's money to him. Why Agyarko would have given money in the first place, I don't know, because I don't share a business interest with him that there are dividends that he should share with me.
Okay.
So I said return his money to him. I didn't even say we will not approve him. We had asked for some evidence of some things that he had said.
Right.
And that was as simple as that. So there was no need. So why money would have been given, that is up to the person who, is giving the money or alleged to have given the money. All I know is that we were given money, and luckily colleagues who took the money have confirmed that we were given the money. And when we found out from the giver, the persons who handed it to us, that this is where the money was coming from, we said we're not interested, take the money back to the person. That is all we know.
Okay.
Now, you see, as it is open to Agyarko to deny that he ever gave money. It is open to, the chairman to deny that he ever gave money. And that is a matter that is going to be between that chain. The chain between our whip and them is a chain that we cannot testify to.
Okay.
You understand me?
Okay.
The chain between our whip and us is the one that we can bear testimony.
Okay.
And say, this happened between us. And this is our conduct. Both of us, Suini, myself, Ablakwa, whoever, we can only say what happened between the chain up to our whip. The chain beyond our whip and them is a matter that we don't want to meddle in. Are you getting the point?
Okay.
Yes.
Do I hear you say that? Do I hear you say that you are going to approve Agyarko anyhow, anyway? And
I didn't say that. I said that we were going to take the evidence. If the evidence confirms what he said during the committee hearing, we had no issue with him. You understand?
He brought the evidence, did he?
He brought the evidence subsequently.
Right, and the evidence.
And then in the in-camera hearing, he brought the evidence. We reviewed the evidence, and then he satisfied us that some of the things he said were true. The others that we disagreed with him, even though he said, look, he got the information from the cabinet, the technical people.
Okay.
Then we said, look, at the meeting, we said, be careful with the technical people and what they tell you. Sometimes you need to cross-check before you come and say things. For instance, during the committee meetings, he then said, in fact, some of the figures, they didn't have it. So when we said, okay, do you have a figure of how much government owes ECG? He said when he went back and checked, the figures are inconclusive. So we said, precisely, that's the point that we are making. That when you have an inconclusive situation, it might even be more than what you said to the committee. Okay. But once you don't know it, don't come and tell us.
Okay. So are you telling us? Are you telling us that eventually, to settle that matter, because you disagreed with him, not you as Mahama Ayariga, but your side of the committee disagreed with his use of the expression that the World Bank, or is it international bodies, were sitting or breathing on the neck of the president.
Of the president, yes.
Did you get him to now retract that, since you are suggesting that he seemed to admit that wasn't correct?
All those things. He retracted all those things.
He did?
And even apologized when we met. And on the basis of all that, we said, fine. Then we really don't have an issue with you, except these issues that you raised, which we didn't agree with you. So if you are retracting on them, and then you are confirming some of the evidence, and then admitting that some of the evidence, really, so far you don't have the proof of them, even though it might be true, on that basis, as a committee, fine. And then put the question to us. We said, okay, let's go ahead.
All right.
So those things that I personally participated in, I can testify. For the things that I didn't participate in, I will not go into territory.
Please indulge me. Last two quick questions.
I'm only reporting
two quick questions. Sorry.
Yes. Yes.
Are you going to do anything beyond putting this in the media? Are you going to Parliament to ask for some inquiry to be conducted in this matter?
Now, if you recall, there were rumors first in the House that we had taken money from Agyarko. And that was what prompted us to ask about where the money was coming from. And that led us to that conclusion. Then the second, Radio Go put out a story that the committee members had taken money. And then when I was called, I recounted what I knew.
Okay.
So for me, it is an exercise in openness and transparency. So whatever the next step is, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just recounting what I know, because when you journalists call us, like you have called me, you are asking me questions.
Okay.
If I refuse to pick your call and answer the questions, the perception in the public is that I'm running away from something. Now, if I pick your questions and then I answer some of them and I leave out some, you will have issues with me. For instance, initially, what happened in camera in the meetings when the speaker asked us to go out and meet with the nominees, those were not matters that were out there in the public. But you've asked me questions that have forced me to put out some of the deliberations in camera. You understand?
Yeah.
So those are issues that our responsibility as your representatives.
You don't sound as though you want to take it beyond putting it out in the media. And the question your critics will raise is that
are you inciting me to take it beyond the media?
As a lawmaker and as a lawyer yourself, you know what your duty as a citizen is in a bribery situation.
Yes.
Because it's a crime.
Yes.
And you are supposed to report to the police at least.
Oh, the Attorney General too, if she hears it on radio, and I believe by now she would have heard it, she can take action. You too, you the one sitting in the radio station. The law also provides that if you suspect that an offense has been committed, you can take action.
I don't have the evidence. I don't have the evidence. You have the evidence.
I'm there. I said that I'm willing to testify. So if you go and I'm called and I'm subpoenaed as a witness, won't I come and tell what I know?
All right. The last question really is that people are questioning.
All of us as citizens have responsibilities. So you can't push all the burdens to me alone.
I hear you. People are questioning why you MPs would be taking or expecting allowances for doing your day-to-day normal business. People are questioning that. What do you say?
Oh, I think that they can question. They have a right to question because we are elected to serve them. So if they question our conditions of service, I mean, they are right, and it's our responsibility to, reply to them. And I recall that at the meeting where members raised the issue about allowance, they complained bitterly that they had sat on Saturdays, they had sat beyond the normal time that Parliament sits, and even during those sittings, they haven't made provision for dinner, for all sorts of things. So people were raising issues, and they raised those issues.
Okay.
I will say that the issues raised were legitimate if we're just sitting within normal working hours and not sitting on Saturdays and whatnot. I'm sure nobody would have raised any of those issues. But people raised those issues because they felt they were overtasked. As for the public, I believe that they have a right to question the remuneration packages of their leaders. And it's not today that they started questioning the remuneration packages of their leaders. They've questioned the ex-gratia, they've questioned the salary levels of Article 71 public officers. They've questioned so many things. And it's legitimate that they question those things.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. But I wish to bring to your attention that there's a statement, I understand, from Parliament categorically denying, from the House, categorically denying your claims and labeling them as frivolous, vexatious, and without merit.
I have heard on radio a statement by the Public Affairs Director of the House, a statement that doesn't in any way undermine what I said, because I didn't say she was in the meeting So if she was not in the meeting, how can she issue a statement about a meeting that she was not part of?
I see.
And she didn't even call me to find out from me whether it happened in the house. So I don't know which side of the house she was issuing the statement on behalf of.
Okay.
Don't you think that if she's issuing a statement about something that I recount happened, she should have called me to ask?
Well, that may be fair to require, particularly that you say that she was not in there.
So you don't deny outright members' recount of an event that he took part in and you didn't take part in.
This is not being issued. This is not being issued as a part of the house, but the house
that's
itself.
What I mean.
And that must mean a lot to you.
Listen, it's not the house itself. It is the public affairs officer of Parliament.
She would have issued it on behalf of the house. That's what it is. It is issued on behalf of the house. There's a paragraph that says that Parliament, and this is the word. Let me just read this. Parliament will like to state categorically. She said, Parliament will like to state categorically and without any equivocation that these allegations are frivolous and vexatious and should be discarded. I think we can end it here.
No, we cannot end it there. If you end it there, you won't be fair to me. Let me have the final word on this matter because you will remain in the studio and you can have an extensive discussion.
Please do briefly.
Yes, I'm saying that she is free to issue whatever statement, but I'm saying that I'm recounting facts that are known by me and those who took part in the meeting, and at least so far, 2 of those who took part in the meeting, in addition to myself, have confirmed that what I said is accurate.
Okay.
So if she wanted to issue a statement, the basic thing she would have done is to at least find out from those people who took part in the meeting whether indeed the facts as I recounted are true.
Okay.
And that would have helped her to make a statement that perhaps will be more representative of Parliament if she is speaking for Parliament.
You're right. Thank you very much, Honorable Mahama Ayariga.
I'm very grateful for that.
Great. Thank you very much. Now, we come back to the studio here. I had indicated to you that we were going to speak to Boakye, Agyarko, and Joe Osei-Wusu. The representation I'm having suggests that we are unable to speak to them, at least for now. So if we do have them, we will bring them to also tell their side of this particular story. So now let's speak to my guest in the studio, and I'd like to begin with Paul.
Thank you very much, Samson, and I've been listening to Mr. Ayariga. I think I have about that. So this is about the vetting, the entire vetting situation.
Right.
I have an account to give that should answer 2 questions that are on the table. The first is that there should be very little or actually no motivation for any nominee to offer money or bribe, for that matter, to get the appointment passed based on the conceptualization of the vetting process as it occurs in the Parliament of Ghana and the historical account of the way the vetting process has occurred. If you look at these 2, you will find that there's actually no motivation because when people appear before the appointment committee on behalf of the president, the question about they being refused the nomination actually is not on the table. That is contextually and historically, that's what it is. Because our hybrid constitution has brought us into the center of 2 different political nomination and approval processes. The British parliamentary system, which has no vetting process at all, because the Prime Minister names people, and as the famous author Jeffrey Archer writes in his First Among Equals, when the Prime Minister leaves his coronation from Buckingham Palace with the Queen, if you are a member of his party and you're in Parliament, within the first hour, if you receive a call from him, then you're a minister. Within the next hour, if you receive a call from him, then you'll be a deputy minister. If you don't get a call from him in the first 2 hours after he has left Buckingham Palace, then you're not in the executive. And when you get a call from him, you start work immediately. So they don't have any parliamentary processes. And then you look at the converse, the United States, where there's an actual separation of powers. And so the president then sends his nominees to Parliament. And by the time the president wins the election that is not even sworn in, the Parliament is in full session. And so he sends his nominees to them. And in that circumstance, the President of the United States may be sending his nominees to an appointment committee which has a majority of the opposite party. It's entirely possible for that to happen in the United States. And so you may have people's nominations being refused. Now let's come to Ghana, the context. Historically, we've never had vetting. First time we had vetting was in 2001. The third Republican Constitution, which even presented as a presidential executive system, apparently they don't have the rule for vetting. So 2001, operating under the 1992 Constitution, was the first time that vetting occurred. The first parliament of that Fourth Republic did not do any vetting at all. The nominees of Flight Lieutenant Rawlings were prior approved by Parliament in a way that Parliament deemed fit. So then comes the controversy, which leads us to where we are today. The second Parliament of the Fourth Republic, and the account is here. When the Parliament began, they were told that Flight Lieutenant Rawlings, the retained president who won the second election, would be sending names to Parliament for prior approval under Article 78 of the Constitution. That he categorized his ministers in two different headlines. Retained ministers, which is to say ministers that have served under his first presidency. The thinking was that those retained ministers are still ministers, and so Parliament must be informed. And then the uproar came, and the minority said, no, there's something called prior approval in the Constitution that must be dealt with. So on the 7th of February, 1997, Richard Kwame Pepra, who was the finance minister from the First Republic, from the first term of Parliament, appeared in Parliament to read the budget. And the minority said that Kwame Pepra has not had the prior approval of Parliament. The contention was that because he was a retained minister, he's already a minister. Mr. J.H. Mensah obviously went to court in the famous case of J.H. Mensah, Attorney General. I'd like to show something before I come to what the Supreme Court said about this vetting process. Now, this is a letter that J.H. Mensah wrote to Justice D.F. Annan, who was the Speaker of the Parliament, indicating to him that Kwame Pepra is not properly before the House. And
where are you reading from?
I'm reading from a book written by K.B. Ayensu and S.N. Dakwa, two of the famous clerks of the Parliament of Ghana. It's entitled The Evolution of Parliament in Ghana, and it was published by the Institute of Economic Affairs, the IEA.
Right.
It says, this is D.F. Annan writing, I acknowledge the receipt of your letter, reference to so-and-so, on the appointment of ministers under Article 78 of the Constitution. Now, this letter was written by the Speaker after 7th February. It says, my reading of the express words of the letter from the President's office, that is the letter that named the ministers, leads me to the view that all the names of the persons proposed, whether they are retained ministers, and the Speaker uses that word, retained ministers, or newly appointed, newly nominated ministers, were submitted to the House for the purpose of the discharge of the House's constitutional responsibility in relation to the approval of ministers. Processes and procedures leading to the approval or rejection of ministers remain entirely within the competence and authority of the House. I read that again. Processes and procedures leading to the approval or rejection of ministers remain entirely within the competence and authority of the House. I agree, says Mr. Speaker to the minority leader, that no action may be taken in Parliament which in terms of our standing orders prejudices the determination of the constitutional issues raised in your writ, which is now pending before the Supreme Court. Now, J.H. Mensah had gone to court with a matter saying that there could not be any creature known as retained ministers under the Constitution of 1992. And that prior approval, the term prior approval used in Parliament, must be applied as a necessary incident of vetting, interviewing these ministers before Parliament, and then give them the prior approval that the Constitution was asking for. Now, the Supreme Court was interested in their outcome. They said that they agreed that there's nothing like a retained minister. Ministers have the expiry of their tenure with the same as the president and the Parliament that expires. So every minister had expired, and every minister needed prior approval. But interestingly, they said this, that prior approval does not mean vetting. Prior approval should mean anything that the Parliament decides that it should mean. So that if the Parliament decided that prior approval meant voice vote, that as many as are in favor of Boakye Agyarko say aye, and they say aye, that is the end of the matter, whether Boakye Agyarko is standing before the Parliament or not. The Supreme Court wanted to emphasize the independence of Parliament within the context of separation of powers, and said, therefore, that prior approval is not a term of art. And so you cannot insist that prior approval should be vetting. So what happened in the Parliament? There was no vetting. The majority decided that prior approval does not mean vetting. This is 1997, the second Parliament of the Fourth Republic. This is the history of the vetting. And so because the MPP had campaigned for this vetting thing, when they came to power, the standing orders under Peter Adjete was then amended, and prior approval came to mean vetting. So when a person appears before the appointment committee, there's only one or two, especially one reason why he may be refused. If he has failed a technical constitutional denominator, which fundamentally is to be otherwise qualified to be a member of parliament. So that if a person is otherwise not qualified to be a member of parliament, that within the context and the history of this vetting process is the only way in which a person can fail the vetting. When a person appears before the committee nominated by the president on the side of the majority, ultimately he will pass as a minister, but it doesn't end there. What they go to do is to pass the test of political legitimacy. And so we have found in this country that people have gone to vetting and have failed this political legitimacy. It's followed them throughout their ministry. Often they have left the ministry. Sometimes ministries are given new names. They go and they're not able to explain the remit of the new names, and some have failed. Right. So that Agyarko didn't have... Go on.
Yes, and you do a good job by taking us, the history, the politics of it, and even through to the UK and the US. But what do you expect to happen with respect to this situation?
This Agyarko situation?
This Agyarko situation and the allegation of bribe. You say there should be no inducement, there should be no motivation for it.
Yes, because
what you're saying practically is that you don't trust this story.
Well, what I'm saying is that there's a missing link. Because it will be passed anyway.
What should happen?
What should happen is, from what I listened to, I listened to the Honorable Ayariga. I think that there has to be an explanation from the minority chief whip.
Right.
Because he is the one who conveyed this message, that he is the one who conveyed the money, and then he's the one who attributed reasons for the money. And he was sourcing his reason from the majority, the chairman of the committee. The chairman of the committee has denied. Ayariga is right. He can speak of matters that are known to him. He can speak of matters that he was told. So the person that you have to be interviewing, I think, is Muntaka.
Right.
To find out from him, where did you get this information that this money was intended to influence members of the committee to pass Agyarko? Because Agyarko will be passed anyway.
Right. Thank you. So we are trying to get Muntaka Mubarak on the phone line so that he can provide the missing link, as Paul has clearly identified. Now, Larry, Paul doesn't believe this, like many people, that this is cock bull.
Thank you. And good morning to your listeners. First of all, I disagree with Paul. I disagree with him to an extent that I would even want to call for an investigation into the matter.
He says there's no motivation for that.
No.
You think there should be motivation for a nominee seeking to pay for his approval?
He said also that Parliament was going to pass him anyway. And that there has never been any disapproval. In the past, there's been disapprovals. There have been disapprovals. You remember a certain Vicky Bright was disapproved by the same parliament.
Listen to me. I said there's disapproval on technical grounds, otherwise qualified to be a member of parliament.
Nobody has. And
no, you didn't listen. I said.
I listened to you.
No. I said that on technical grounds, otherwise qualified to be a member of parliament. If you are not qualified to be a member of parliament, that's the only way you can be disapproved.
Okay.
And I said that.
Thank you.
But I mean, the committee has disapproved.
Yes, Vicky Bright was otherwise not qualified to be a member of parliament because she held allegiance to the British government. But it's a matter of fact.
But you said the committee cannot disapprove. And I'm just taking you on that. I'm not even looking at the technical issues.
He's saying I didn't qualify you.
You listen to me. I said they can. The committee can.
I think everybody heard you. I heard you. There's a reason when you said that. I didn't try to bring to your attention Vicky Bright and Spio Gabriel's situation in the past.
But they qualify on the exemption that I made.
You don't get me. I say, when I heard you make that statement, there's a reason I didn't bring that to your notice.
Because I took care of it.
Okay. Yes, but he has issues, so let him make his point.
And then I do recall that there was a deputy minister for forestry, who also had issues with, you remember, Efia, who also had issues with her nomination, and then Parliament disapproved of
something Prempe, right?
Okay. You understand? So that committee is known to be disapprovable of.
Allow our listeners to really understand.
No, they've heard you. They've heard you.
The committee can disapprove. I'm not saying there's never been, but you can only disapprove on a technical reason that the person who is coming under Article 78 must be qualified to be a member of Parliament. So we go to the qualifications of members of Parliament, and you will find that the people that have been disapproved have been cited as not being qualified to be members of Parliament.
Right.
Vicky Bright's citizenship, for instance.
Thank you.
Now, Sam, we've been here before. Under Speaker Sechi Hughes, there was an issue about Vodafone, the sale of Vodafone. GT to Vodafone. And then there was an issue about people in the majority side then, the same majority as we have it now. Exactly. Receiving $5,000. Okay? PC was left alone to come and provide evidence upon evidence. The man kept talking that, listen, I'm privy to this thing. I was in a meeting. The thing was discussed. My people received the money. And so, sadly, we, the media, also helped in crucifying PC. At the point in time, PC was helpless. The same thing is happening to Ayariga today. Oh, wait. Then under the Honorable Agyarko, there was an issue also about RLG writing to Parliament. RLG had, I think, they had an issue with something. Boreholes. And then they wrote to Parliament that they were to appear before the Public Accounts Committee. And then hours before then, they had written to Parliament saying that they were going to drill boreholes for all the 275 MPs. People got shocked. I mean, and then, so people got shocked. Now, we have an issue on the current speaker now, where Ayariga is saying that a nominee who is before them had brought money, and that the money came from the chief whip, as in Muntaka, through to the minority members. And again, Ayariga is now being pushed around, provide evidence, do this, do that, do that, do that. Eventually, we're going to, just like, the Vodafone thing, just like the borehole matter, this one is also going to be, is going to be wished away just like that. I think that this calls for investigation. People are watching. Our democracy has come so far. I mean, if the same Parliament, okay, could hold a musician or a DJ before it and grill him for hours for saying that, or for alleging that he knows MPs who smoke weed, okay? If he could be held before them, I think that bribery, as has been alleged, or inducement, as has been said, also calls for investigation.
You're saying that Mahama Ayariga should be held before the Privileges Committee?
I think the whole thing should be investigated. The whole matter, whether Ayariga is saying it, whether the chairman of the committee should also be investigated. Did you make contact with the chief whip of the minority?
At the Privileges Committee, you are hauled there for some misconduct.
Yeah.
So he would be said to have misconducted himself in one way or the other, and so he should be taken there.
It mustn't necessarily be the Privileges Committee of Parliament. It's like, that same Parliament investigating itself. But I think, as a people, we could help ourselves by having this matter investigated. It doesn't have to be, Privileges Committee of Parliament, okay?
What are you thinking about?
Well, we should think through it. We should think through it because we have senior people, we have Supreme Court judges who can actually,
It's not about investigating this matter.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
Oh, are we building such a big?
You don't think it's serious?
Hold on. Now, listen. If you see what Larry is saying, and he's giving you incidents that may support the argument that dislodges Paul's position, that there ought not to be motivation for anybody to go there and to seek to, pay for his approval. But he refers to situations where Parliament is accused, even Aban Bagwing himself, majority leader then, minority leader then, suggesting that things are done in some way. And very recently, Martin Amidu has had to call on this Parliament to stay away from what used to happen. He alleges that they take or demand money to do their normal business.
Something, let me say that although I greatly respect Honorable Martin Amidu, I'm not very sure if I want to go on the side of his very serious allegation of demand. I'm not very sure. Somehow, I agree with both Paul and Larry, because yes, it's true that there ought not to be motivation. But like Larry is saying, if you are a journalist who has covered Parliament before, things happen that shouldn't happen. Like sometimes journalists are accused of taking things that they are not supposed to take. It ought not to happen, but it happens. So if you go to if you remember the sale of AGC and the committee issues that came up, that certain things, went to the committee. There was this issue about a media group which now people refer to as media cabal, that was motivated, flown to South Africa to see the company's premises. Paul, you remember that issue? And then the minority at the time who were alleged to have been induced, also lobbying for the same company, because there were two companies, Rand Gold and Anglo Gold. So we all agree that there are things that naturally, when you come by the conventions and the laws, they ought not to happen, but it happens. But I think that this, for me, is an attack on Muntaka Mubarak. When we did the last edition of Newsfile for this year, I said that now that NDC is going to be in opposition, there's going to be power brokers, power lines, power struggle in the party. The current minority leadership that you see, led by Haruna Idrisu, fine gentleman, experienced politician, former NUC's president, very smart guy. Paul knows him from school, very sharp guy. There's an attack on his leadership. You understand?
Already?
Yes, already. Even before that, you remember Lens, headed by Kobe Fiagbe, made allegations against Haruna Idrisu's person, mentioned him in particular in the same Vodafone deal that he had taken money when PCRPF for his issue came. I was one of the people who said he should bring the evidence to support the claims he was making against Haruna Idrisu. This whole issue of people making very serious allegations, whether it's on the floor of parliament, whether it's at the committee level, whether it's anywhere on radio or whatever, and do not give the evidence to support it, I think it's not fair to those that we make the allegations against, and also it's not fair to the public. Suini's issue was one of the issues that I said that you should, as a member of parliament, you should bring the evidence. In Mahama Ayariga's issue, I think that he should bring the evidence. But why I believe in the politics behind this whole thing is what I'm speaking to. That Haruna Idrisu and Muntaka appear to belong to a particular faction of the Northern Caucus. That's according to the NDC and the power lines that are beginning to emerge in NDC. And I've already spoken about the Ever Caucus in NDC, the Fanti Caucus in the NDC, and the Northern Caucus in the NDC. Maybe Malik will expatiate on the Northern Caucus. And if you come to the Northern Caucus, oftentimes those of us in the South think that, oh, it's one big cluster. But it is not. And that's the politics that you are seeing. So Ayariga has mentioned, oh, Suini and Ablakwa. I'm not quite sure about Ablakwa. I want to see. But if Ablakwa is part of this group, then I'll presume that these are the Mahama-led faction in NDC that is trying to struggle for recognition and power and some kind of authority in the minority, because they think that Haruna Idrisu and Muntaka are getting, you know, the upper hand in this whole minority leadership. Because look at how Muntaka Mubarak.
What are you saying? That this is how to get the recognition they deserve?
Not recognition, but they want power. They want power in the leadership.
And this is how to do it?
Not, you see, it's important to undermine whoever you think is there. Whoever appears to have the current power. And make the person look bad.
Okay, so you're saying it is intended to undermine the leadership of Haruna Idrisu?
Haruna Idrisu and Muntaka. Because this is Ayariga making allegations against Muntaka. He hasn't. Surprisingly, he's not mentioned anybody in the MPP. He's just mentioned Joe Wise. And this is what he said in his interview, that he can only speak to what he knows. And he doesn't know whether Joe Osei brought the money. But he knows he got the money from the minority chief whip. Why? Because look at how Muntaka Mubarak responded to the Suini issue. And there were NDC members who were very upset about how he handled it.
Get there.
So this is the power struggle that for me, this whole thing, this is what I'm beginning to see in NDC, that this is just power politics, plain politics, because it's the onus is on Ayariga. I don't think that we should do the investigation that Larry speaks about. Why are we doing any investigation? We should have a basis upon which we are starting an investigation. We are even, there should be an objective. Why are we doing an investigation? Why should there be an investigation? There should be, like the lawyers would say, a prima facie case, a substantive matter, a question to be answered before we proceed to set up a committee, pay them with our taxpayers' money, and tell them to do an investigation.
You think there is not?
I don't think there is. This is mere allegation. Honorable Mahama Ayariga is proceeding on hearsay. He was told, and he is a lawyer. Nothing that he knows that hearsay is not admissible anywhere.
Not every hearsay is not.
Well, but you see, yes, he handled the money. But how
was given him. He returned the money.
But Larry, I am an ordinary person, so I sit here and you say that you handled money.
Suini has come out to say that. Listen, he received some money.
Yes, but you see,
Ablakwa has come to say that he received money.
I haven't heard them.
3 people
if you heard me
saying.
Larry, if you heard me, I said I haven't heard Ayariga. I haven't heard.
And from what she's saying, is it possible? Is it possible that
I want to test it.
That is a collusion?
Is that?
That's an enterprise between.
And I've already told you about the politics behind.
Isolated as a group that is supposed to do some work for the
president. So give us the evidence.
Ex-president.
Oh,
if the minority chief whip gave you the money, what is the evidence that the minority chief whip actually got it from Agyarko? You need to link it. Give us proper evidence to link it.
Yeah, let's hear Malik. Malik, here you are.
You asked me a question.
Here you are. Here are the allegations coming forward. And do you think that people are in a hurry? Those who seek to discredit the claim, do you think they are too much in a hurry? And also we know that proving claims of corruption, bribery, is very difficult, almost impossible sometimes.
Well, but for someone who says he has the money, we shouldn't give him that benefit. That is difficult to prove this because he said he handled the money. I am concerned that he's a lawyer, he's a member of parliament, and he claims that the minority chief whip, his leader in parliament, gave him money and told him this is the source of the money. And he didn't bother to check with the so-called source of the money, and yet he went to town with it. This is somebody's reputation out there. If you want to damage the person's reputation by attributing to him an allegation of such magnitude, you cross-check with him. And it's instructive that...
You shouldn't trust his leader?
It's instructive that he tells you why is the Public Affairs Directorate of Parliament issuing a statement without calling him. And yet when he is told that the money is coming from Agyarko, he doesn't make any effort to cross-check with the man. In fact, he doesn't make an effort to cross-check with the chairman of the Appointments Committee of Parliament, who is supposed to be the conduit through whom this money came. He doesn't cross-check with anyone. He goes to town with the allegation, and yet when his allegations are being dismissed, he says, why have they not called him to ask him the basis of his allegation, yet they've gone to go and issue a statement? What is source for the goose is source for the gander. If you think that it made sense that the Public Affairs Directorate of Parliament should have spoken to you when you were going to throw out the allegation in the public space and caught anger and public disaffection against the nominee, it only makes sense and it's only fair that you call him, Mr. Agyarko, I understand that you have sent some money to us. Is it true? Let him confirm or deny. You go and put the information out there, and when the journalist asked him, you can't confirm that this was done in a manner as to get you to endorse him. He said, well, the logical conclusion is that this is why he brought the money. And as Paul pointed out, how is the vetting done? When the president nominates somebody in accordance with Article 78 of the Constitution, and the Constitution says that ministers shall be nominated with prior approval from Parliament, they are submitted to you, you do your vetting. The committee would determine whether a person is approved or not. If there is consensus, the committee will prepare a report and say there is consensus. If there is no consensus, we know that as happened in times past, the majority will always have their way. And read the report here. The majority actually said that in respect of Agyarko and Osafo-Maafo, the minority had concerns, but the majority have gone ahead to approve them. It was on the floor of the House when the matter was put, when the report was placed before the Committee of the Whole, as an entire House, that the minority leader then requested that a change should be made to the report of the committee to reflect a consensus in respect of the two of them, instead of it being a decision of the majority. Now, that brings into sharp focus what Efia is talking about the struggle for control of the party within and outside of Parliament. That this is a complete attack on the leadership of Haruna Iddrisu and Muttaka. Because you seem to
be supporting Paul that there ought not be any motivation.
There was no basis for it, because...
And particularly, when you read their report, they had actually recommended for the others, for approval by consensus, because they agreed.
Yes.
But for these two, whom they had issues unresolved or not resolved to their satisfaction, the the recommendation then was that the committee, by consensus decision, recommends to the House to approve the nomination of Mr. Agyarko for appointment as Minister responsible for energy. This is when matters had changed.
Yes.
But originally, so you can see that there's a correction here. It is pen that's been used to correct the original decision. The original decision was that the committee, by majority decision, was recommending.
Because at the committee level, the minority still stood their grounds that they didn't support the recommendation for these guys to be approved.
Okay.
So what they did was, well, once there is disagreement, it will come down to vote.
Right.
And once it comes down to vote, the majority will always have their way. So in this report, the majority actually had their way. And the recommendation was that for the two of them, it was a majority decision at the committee level. But when the report was laid before the House, the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, then requested that a change should be effected to reflect a consensus. That's why you are pointing out this correction.
All right.
Now, after that has been done, you have a member of the minority come out and throw out an allegation. And listen to him. He says, well, I have spoken to matters as far as I know. And if you listen to his interview with Radio
No, the allegations preceded the conclusion that you are referring to last night.
But I'm saying that if you listen to him, even today.
Consensus. He said that, I think he talked about their objections, the minority's objection too.
But eventually it was approved by consensus because
I'm
they have
saying
sat
that on
down
the
with
floor,
them.
on
That's
the
why there
floor
was
of
no
the
vote.
House,
Yes,
on the floor of the House, the minority leader actually requested that a change should be made.
We'll take a break here. And we'll return to continue with the appointments and the matters that's happening in Parliament regarding the appointment, Boakye Agyarko, Osafo-Maafo, the matters that came up. You also are aware of the famous line now, new king, new law, as an answer to why there was need, the policy decision regarding why there was need to change, take the cocoa board from the Finance Ministry to the Ministry of Agriculture. We'll be right back.